Today we are going outside and I'm going to show you how the Tamron 70-200 G2 EF mount operates on the Canon R6 Mark II. It's pretty awesome. Hi, I'm Jared with VisibleTour.com, and before we get started, please subscribe because we talk about video and photography on this channel. It is fun. I'm a camera nerd. I just am. I love it. This is my outlet to talk about cameras, lenses, video, and even production when it comes to video editing. So if that's you, subscribe. We will be getting nerdy on this channel. This is what 15 to 35 millimeter makes your arms look like. I'm like a freak. So we have the Tamron 70-200 2.8 G2. This is an extremely sharp and affordable lens used mostly for portraiture, some landscape. It's an amazing lens. It is a focal length that I typically don't shoot because I am an architectural photographer. I'm usually ultra wide. But how does this operate in 2023 on the Canon R6 Mark II? Well, it's shockingly awesome. I mean, I've been playing with this for the last few weeks. This is a copy that I did not get from Camera Corner Connecting Point. They loaned me one, I used it, I fell in love with it. I went on Marketplace. This thing retails for around $1,000. I found someone who bought it a few months ago, decided to switch to Sony outside of their return policy, and I bought it for $700. Don't ask me how. I think that's a really good deal. So $700 for this thing. This is the adapter you're gonna have to use when you're adapting it onto an RF body mount like the Canon R6 Mark II. So you gotta have this on there. It's just the way it is. So it does make it a little bit bigger. This thing is heavy. It is heavy. It is a clunker. It is big. The Canon 70-200 2.8 RF, well, that thing is super duper light and it condenses a lot shorter when it is at the 70 millimeters. When it goes out to the 200, well, then it is almost this length, but it also is designed to be a lot lighter. This is not light. You have an amazing Arca Swiss connection here for the tripod mount. I did not realize that this was Arca Swiss until I returned it to Camera Corner and right before I bought this one. And if you're not familiar with the Arca Swiss, well, it is a very universal, versatile mount that a lot of camera mounts use. I've got them on all my tripods. So what we're gonna do today, we're gonna go outside. I'm gonna show you some tracking. I'm gonna show you some portraitures. And I just wanna show you how sharp these images really are and the video tracking and how sharp the video is. The bokeh that you get from this for something that's $1,000 or get it refurbished for around $800 or find it on Marketplace for $700. That was a really good deal. I can't believe I found it for $700. Brand new. I actually just took the film off of it. Not even a scratch on it, no dust on the lens. This guy clearly used this just a couple times, realized, well, 70-200 for somebody that's a hobbyist just getting into photography, it's probably not a focal length that you want to be using. Plus it's heavy. Do you want to walk around with this? Well, if you're doing portraiture and you're making a living out of it, yes, you definitely do. So when we get back in here, I'm going to give you the pros on this and why you should probably buy one if you have an RF mount camera. But I'm also going to give you cons and other reasons why you might want to go for the RF mount Canon version of this. So let's get into it and we will get back here to talk more about this camera lens. All right, here is 70 millimeters and we're going to see what that looks like at the 2.8. And then how does it do when it gets me back into frame? And how close can I get to this? The bokeh at 70 is really nice. You can't complain on it. This is awesome on the R6 Mark II. I do love this lens, and for $700 that I picked up on Facebook Marketplace, it is amazing. It is a really
awesome price. Typically $1,000. You can find some sales and refurbished around $800 to $900. I'm going to leave some links below, so feel free to check those out. And again, that might be a good route to go. Get it used, get it refurbished, or if you want a brand new, go ahead and do that. Let's hit 135 millimeters on the video end and see what that looks like. So 135 millimeters is where we're at right now. So you've got creamier, nicer looking bokeh in the background. And for video, this might be a good route to go when you're doing interview type style videos. I'm gonna go to 200 millimeters, and everything in the background is gonna bring it forward some more. It's gonna look bigger, larger, more epic looking, which is really what you want when it comes to video, right? You want something that stands out, something that looks really good. And so 135 millimeters, the tracking is really good on the R6 Mark II when it comes to adapted glass, like the Tamron even. Not a native RF mount lens and not a native brand either. It's a third party, and yet it is amazing. I'm hoping for the day that Tamron is allowed to make lenses for the R6 Mark II and all the RF mounts, because it's gonna rock. It's gonna be awesome. 200 millimeters, 2.8. Trying to stay in frame here. We're gonna back all the way up. That tree across the street probably looks larger than it did before. It looks closer, I bet, but it's not. It's pretty far away from here. But it brings that compression in. It gives more of that epic look. And that's why I love this 70 to 200. Now, the 150 to 600 was awesome. The compression is great. It's ideal for animals though. And it is a ginormous lens. I would not use it for portraiture. This 70 to 200, awesome for portraiture, awesome for landscape. You've got those photos, but the video, look at the video on this. This is what's amazing. You've got awesome bokeh in the background. Let's get more of me in here. This is pretty good. This gives a nice look.
So I want to bring you right into Lightroom looking at these photos. So this was self-portrait here. I was using the remote shutter. Also, when I lost distance, I did have my wife take the photos. So hopefully all of the settings were correct, because that is not her forte. So anyways, we have it here. It is 200 millimeters. ISO is 160. It's at 2.8 because, hey, it's a 2.8 lens. We want to see how sharp it is at 2.8. So let's go in at 200% and just look at how sharp the eyelashes are right there and how handsome those eyes are. Just super handsome. Gotta love it. So we're going back down from 200 millimeters. So we're at 135 millimeters. I look like a ghost. I look like some weird albino. Oh boy. So how do we clean this up? Well, luckily it's raw, but this is, wow, 135 makes me look a little big here. Maybe it's the jacket. And you kind of want to look at the histogram here. So we can always do a Lightroom little study as well in the future. But look, I didn't even do any sharpening of the eyes, so I didn't even go down here to do any sharpening. Didn't touch any of the saturation before. Then obviously you want to shoot in RAW so you can fix these later on like this, especially when you have your wife do your photos for you. So here's 70 millimeters, and everything looks pretty sharp from what I can tell. A little tweaking. So, highlights are just fun to play with because then you can give more detail into the branches and the sky up here. A little shadow. And then the exposure overall was later in the day. So, yeah, now we've got, let's do a little bit more contrast. Yeah, and again, I did not do any sharpening at all. All of this was just basic correction for contrast and highlights. And this is just a very sharp lens. So let's actually go back over to the 200 millimeters. So the 200 millimeters is going to give you the most detail because it's very close up on my face, but this just shows how sharp it is at 200 millimeters. Man, you can see all my pores, and you probably want to clean that up a little bit.
So what we're going to do, we're going to go back inside. I'm going to tell you my final thoughts, who this is for, probably why you should get this, especially if you have an EF or an RF mount. And if you are on a Sony, well, just get it natively. It's an amazing lens.
So what did you think of the sharpness of this lens? I mean, it is awesome. The good news is this thing doesn't retract. So you go from 70 to 200 in just a simple little turn. Now that 150 to 600, when I had that and I did that lens war, you had to keep cranking that thing. It was stiff. It just didn't work out very well. This is just smooth. This is like the L series lens, but for a Tamron. And the glass is gorgeous. I mean, I love the image. So real quick, here are the pros. The pros are 2.8. It's super sharp at 2.8. Gets really sharp at 4. Super sharp at 5.6. This is a great studio lens. You have this mounted on your tripod. You have an Arcus Swiss connection right there, and you can just take it off really quick or leave it on, switch out your cameras. So if you want to use the R7 and you have a nice 1.6 crop, or if you just want that full frame look, you got the R6 Mark II, and you just keep swapping the body out and leaving the camera right on the tripod. It is awesome. It is good because then you don't have to move around with it. Now that leads into the con. One of the biggest cons is this thing is heavy. Lugging this around on location, going downtown, going into an environmental shoot, this is going to be very, very heavy after several minutes of using it, and you may not like it. So if you're a wedding photographer and you're spending an entire day with a bride and a groom and you're going around, I got to tell you, I would not use this lens. But if I'm in a studio, I would totally use this lens. Or if you're just going to do some environmental shots here or there, or you're a hobbyist just getting into it, then I would go and start out with this. It is professional glass, professional image. You're going to get an awesome look with this, but it's not always about the look. It is sometimes about the convenience, and that's what a tool is. A tool is about the convenience. Buy nice or buy twice. This is nice, but down the line, if I find that this is a good focal length that I would be using a lot more in the future, well, I'm probably gonna go buy twice and get the 70 to 200 2.8 RF because it's a lot lighter. I can actually get it in my bag easier. This one I'm gonna have to take off the adapter, then I have to position it a little bit funny, and then I get it in, and it does add a lot of heft into my bag, especially if I have the 24 to 70 and the 15 to 35 in my bag. This is going to add a lot more. Now, when you're down to f5.6, things get really sharp, and they're good when you have multiple people in the scene. That way you're making sure everybody is in focus, even if you're a few inches apart with your level playing field. And so most portraiture photographers, although they do like, and it is a good image, to shoot wide open, they will stop down to f4 or f5.6, or if you're in a studio, a lot of them will go down to f8. So really, do you need the 2.8? Well, some people don't. The 4 might be good enough for a lot of people, and then you just stop down to 5.6 to get even sharper, or in a studio when you want everything in focus in that portraiture headshot, well, then you've got an f8 there. This is affordable, even more affordable than the f4 version of the RF. But again, you have to do the pros and cons. The pro is amazing, cost effective, it is sharp. The con is it is heavy, not very easy to travel with. If you are looking at purchasing this, I'm going to leave a link below. And also I'm going to leave a link below for the RF mount version as well. The Canon version of the f4 and the 2.8 are amazing. So if you're already to just make that jump into that class, well then go ahead and click on that link below as well. Otherwise, if you're just getting into that portraiture or landscape where you have that 200mm zoom, This is excellent, and you really can't go wrong with it. I love it. I'm going to be hanging on to it for a long time, and if I find that it really does do the job for me and it actually brings a return on investment, well then I probably will upgrade to the RF mount just for that mobility. If you haven't already, please subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, I'm gonna make it easy. You got 2 video choices, and the algorithm of Google tells you that you're gonna like one of these, so just pick one. You haven't picked one yet, have you? Just pick one. You'll enjoy it.